Okay, let's talk about how to run with correct technique so we can minimize impact, trauma, and injury risk and maximize the spring-like potential of our wonderful human body to propel you forward gracefully and efficiently. Guess what it starts with? It starts with the correct footwear. Because when you wear cushioned, elevated heel shoes, it forces you to run with poor technique. And you've heard about the heel striking phenomenon. Dr. Daniel Lieberman contends 80 to 95% of all recreational runners run in a heel strike manner. And when you strike the ground heel first, it greatly increases the impact trauma, 7 times more impact trauma than running in barefoot or minimalist shoes. And it creates a braking-like effect with each stride. So we have to get our posture right, the use of our upper body correct, and of course, striking the ground correctly and using our feet correctly. So when you have a zero drop shoe with the articulated toes, that enables your body, your foot, to work in the manner that it was intended, a barefoot-like experience when you're running, because the human foot is a miracle of absorbing impact gracefully, providing locomotion, and generating spring-like energy forward. Now, let's start with posture, and we want to have a balanced center of gravity and a straight and elongated spine at all times. So we can start running posture with standing posture, right? We want our shoulders aligned with our spine. We want our head over our shoulders. We don't want to have any of this typical running form that you see a lot with joggers where everything is off, because that overloads the skeleton and pushes you into the ground instead of allowing you to land over that balanced center of gravity every time. So every time we strike the ground with our feet, we are landing right underneath a balanced center of gravity and a straight and elongated spine. We're not overstriding and moving our center of gravity offline, and we're not braking either and having to move our center of gravity forward. So in fact, the way to run fast forward is to generate maximum force vertically directly into the ground. That's what the sprinters are thinking about, is their vertical force production. So you are actually imparting energy directly into the ground, and that is springing you forward. Why is it not springing you straight up in the air? Because of gravity. So we're thinking about generating force vertically into the ground. We have all the videos on running drills to help you with that vertical force production concept, instead of thinking about running in a forward manner and then moving your center of gravity offline. So it's vertical force production into the ground, and a great way to learn that is to just run in place and realize that I'm landing my feet right underneath a balanced center of gravity with each stride, and all I have to do to actually run forward with good technique is think about inching forward a little bit and maintaining all those form checkpoints. So let's break it down by the part of the body and put everything together to have excellent running technique, starting with the upper body and what to do with that. We want our shoulders, our hips, our torso facing forward at all times and not wasting too much energy with side-to-side transfer. There's a little mobility in the thoracic spine when you're sprinting, but generally speaking, we want those shoulders to stay on line, and we want the pelvis to stay on line forward with a little tiny bit of rotation through the stride. But the key checkpoint is that we want torso facing forward. And then when it comes to our arms, we're gonna pick an angle like 90 degrees and preserve that angle throughout the stride pattern. Everything's relaxed here with the hands. Some sprinters are doing this or they're doing this, but the hands are relaxed, the forearms are relaxed, and all the energy for the pumping of the arms comes from big muscles up here. So it looks like this when you're running, and I'm not crossing over center line. I'm not swinging my center of gravity offline with an excessive arm swing or any wasted energy, such as breaking the angle in the back and sending energy backward. So it looks like this. It doesn't have to be robotic-like. You see Usain Bolt's running with a little bit of shoulder rock and a little bit of thoracic mobility, but the general idea is that you're not wasting energy in the wrong direction and you're pumping from the big muscles of the shoulders. So that's what your torso and your arm swing looks like. Now we're gonna go to the hips. We wanna preserve good hip height throughout the stride. We don't wanna over-rotate and kind of generate that braking effect if our hips and our shoulders are too loose. So the hips are strong and tall and they're absorbing impact gracefully. Now we go to the foot strike. And again, we want to land right underneath our stable center of gravity every stride. We're never seeing the upper body or an overstriding pattern where we have braking effect, have to bring the center of gravity back forward, leaning forward because you're thinking about running forward. So it's all about getting that idea of running in place. And then when we land on the ground, we want the foot in a dorsiflex position, which is this. Boom. We're gonna land in the midfoot, forefoot area. We're going to allow the arch to flatten and the Achilles tendon to come and gently touch the ground and coil all that rotational kinetic energy for a nice explosive takeoff where the big toe grabs the ground, engages the glute. You can even feel this. If I showed you my glutes, maybe you'd even see them flexing, but when I flex that toe, when I plant that toe for takeoff, I can feel my glute engaging, which is critical for correct running stride. But as soon as you leave the ground, we want to think about dorsiflexing the foot and bringing it back up under the body immediately, such that a correct running stride resembles pedaling a bicycle. Because when you're on the pedal, you're not getting out here and losing energy that way. You got to keep your foot on the pedal, and the same thing goes with the running stride. If you allow your foot to extend way back here, you have to bring it on back, everything is ruined. So it's striking the ground forcefully, allowing the foot to plant, get that spring-like energy effect, and then bring it right back down under the body. Let's try it running in place, and you can see how I'm dorsiflexing my foot. As soon as it comes off the ground, I'm bringing it right back under my body, and I'm ready to run with good technique. Okay, so I'm gonna put all these attributes together, the straight and elongated spine, the balanced center of gravity, striking the ground underneath that center of gravity, and dorsiflexing the foot immediately as it leaves the ground, bringing it back underneath my body so it looks like I'm pedaling a bicycle, and I'll run down and exhibit some good running technique. Here we go. Notice something interesting. This technique applies at any running speed. I get a lot of comments from joggers saying, well, that looks fine for sprinting, but it looks like it takes too much energy and your foot is coming up too high and your knee's coming up too high. When you're jogging or going slow, all you're doing is making a less powerful foot strike and a smaller circle with the bicycle pedal, but you need that engagement, the dorsiflex foot, no matter how slow you're going, and also especially the midfoot landing. So we're used to jogging, shuffling along, especially when we wear the elevated constrictive shoes, but the proper way to jog is a nice graceful midfoot landing, the circular pedaling motion. So now I'm gonna show you correct running technique with just a nice, slow, gentle jog. Less vertical force production, shorter stride length, less energy. But if I were to run a marathon at this pace, which would probably be about my marathon pace, this is the best way to minimize impact trauma and generate whatever force I generate from that very slow stride to go forward. Now I'm going to show you compare and contrast to what we'll call lazy shuffling, lazy foot jogging, where I have more impact trauma. I'm losing a lot of energy into the ground with that braking effect. I'm not being consistent with a straight and elongated spine, and I'm making it harder than it is, even though I'm going slowly. And so the shuffle looks like this, where you can see my feet aren't really doing anything when they go off the ground. They're just kind of dragging along. I'm making more noise, which means I'm generating more impact into the ground. and not using the spring-like potential of my lower extremities to enjoy it. I'm just shuffling along. And it's okay if you want to shuffle along, but it's not as efficient, and over time, you're going to get micro trauma throughout the lower extremities, lower back, hip flexors, hamstrings, Achilles tendons, because you are not absorbing impact efficiently. So correct running technique applies at all running speeds.